Now, the Mahindra XUV300 is an SUV that we've always liked, and there's a particular reason to that. It's not because it's a nice looking car, which it is, or the fact that it's got one of the most spacious back seats in its category. It's because of the way it drives, and most importantly, it's because of that 1.2 litre turbocharged petrol engine that's under the bonnet. It's punchy, it's fun. But the big chink in the armor for the Mahindra XUV300 petrol is the fact that it never had an automatic option. Now it does. It is an AMT, just like its diesel sibling, and we're here to tell you how it drives. But before we do that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and the bell icon to keep you notified of all the happenings in the automotive universe in India and across the world. First things first though, this is just an additional variant with the AMT gearbox, so don't expect any changes on the outside. The XUV300 petrol AMT still looks exactly the same and is available in the W6 and the W8 optional trim levels, this being the latter. The 17-inch wheels, those rather iconic LED daytime running lights and the two-tone option does help it stand out though. That said, some features like LED headlamps, which are still missing, would have been a great addition just to give it that little extra. Just like the exterior, there's nothing new to report on the interior either. You do get a touchscreen which is quite responsive and gets Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the dash is smart looking, but just like before, the center console does look very dated. What you do get now as an addition though is connected car tech, which comes in the form of the BlueSense Plus app, which you can get on your iOS device or your Android device, and you can get features like remote car monitoring. You can know exactly where your car is at any time. You can even plan your trips, do a fuel diary as you see here, and you can even control things remotely with your car. So for example, you can check what your TPMS monitoring system says in terms of if the pressures in your tires are okay. You can turn the ignition on, you can lock and unlock your doors. You can even turn the parking lamps on and off, or toot the horn and turn the hazards on and off. Now this of course is currently available in the automatic version, so the petrol and the diesel AMT both get it, and there are plans of bringing it in the manual version in the near future too. Now generally when I'm reviewing an automatic car, I wouldn't really talk about the way the gear shift is placed, but well, this one's a little different and I think merits a little bit of a discussion. Now we've seen various types of gear shifters, buttons, knobs, some on the stock, but when it's in the center console, you're usually used to it being park on the top, reverse followed by neutral followed by drive. This one is a little different. You've got neutral on your right side, you've got the drive function on your left. There is no park being an AMT, and you've got reverse being on the right and on the bottom, just like in a traditional car. I think that's what Mahindra has gone with to make the gear shifter a little more traditional in the manual sense. Now you can use the gearbox in full manual mode too by pushing the gear lever to the left to engage manual mode, and then pulling down to go down a gear and pushing up the shifter to go up a gear too. But if you do shift the gearbox into manual mode and don't use the physical shifter to shift, it actually does hold the revs for a lot longer than in the standard drive mode, something that makes up maybe for the lack of a sports mode. This is still an AMT gearbox, which means it still does have that bit of nodding motion between gear shifters. But honestly, the way the gearbox has been calibrated, this is one of the best, if not the best, petrol AMTs available in India today. And that's saying a lot. And that's mainly due to the fact that this sort of laziness in the gearbox, this delay in the gearbox shift, is actually made up by the fact that the engine is so great. That extra little torque in the engine, that mid-range performance that this engine has, makes up for the lack of what the AMT gearbox offers you. And that is a great combination that Mahindra has managed to achieve. And that is a bit of a trademark for Mahindra across the board. Their engines are always calibrated to offer the driver that little bit more responsiveness and that extra performance. At regular highway cruising speeds, the gearbox responds well, and it is only if really pushed hard that it feels just a tad bit slow to respond as compared to its maybe more traditional rivals. But even so, as we have already mentioned, this is still the best petrol AMT available in the market today. Now while this is a great package, there are a couple of things that really could have been better. For example, when you're on an uphill incline like on a flyover or driving up a hill and you start from a stop, the acceleration sometimes can be a little bit abrupt and can throw you off. That said, to counter that, there is a creep function that comes as standard in this, and honestly you can just take your leg off the brakes and the XUV300 slowly creeps forward in traffic. That's very important considering how bad the urban traffic in some of our cities can get. Just like the lack of changes on the exterior or the interior, the chassis setup on the AMT Petrol is unchanged too, which means it still rides very well, and with adjustable steering modes offering different weighted steering fields, handles decently well too. Of course, as we mentioned right at the beginning, it does have an extremely spacious rear seat, although that does come at the expense of having a smaller boot, and both variants will come standard equipped with that sunroof. And here's a look at what else the XUV300 packs in. Apart from all these safety features, of course, it's also prudent to remember that the XUV300 is a global NCAP 5-star rated SUV. As a package, then the XUV300 petrol-AMT is a great addition to the already vast options available in the market from other AMTs, CVTs, conventional torque converters, and of course the dual clutch gearboxes. And with prices starting at 9,95,000 rupees, we think that the XUV300 petrol-AMT most certainly warrants closer consideration than ever before. Of course, we will have it go up against its rivals soon enough though, so stay tuned for that.